chances are that there's some area in your life that you want to improve upon. There's an area in your life that you want to take to the next level. And I don't know what that is for you. Maybe perhaps you want your business to go to the next level. Or maybe you've been struggling for quite some time with your health and your weight, and you're trying to improve that. Or there's a relationship in your life, whether it's with your husband or your wife, boyfriend or a girlfriend or a family member. There's a relationship in your life that is struggling, and you're hoping to be able to improve that relationship. Now, I don't know what it is that's going on in your life, but chances are there's some place, some area that you're looking to improve. And I want you to think about what that area in your life is. Now, here's what I want to tell you. Here's what I realized, that most of the time, when we felt like we've exerted the time, the effort, and the energy, and we're not producing the results that we want, oftentimes we believe that the only way that we can take our lives to the next level, the only way that we can produce the type of results that we want, is to do something drastic. So in other words, we think that we have to do something radical. There needs to be a major overhaul in order to take our business to the next level, a major overhaul in order for us to finally be in alignment with our goals and our dreams, to finally lose that weight once and once for all, to be able to restore our marriage or our relationship or whatever it might be. But here's what I want you to understand, and this is what I want to talk to you about. What you may not know is oftentimes when it comes to any area in your life that you've been exerting the time, the effort, and the energy, and you're not quite producing the result that you want. Most of the time, believe it or not, all you have to do is make a very small, minor adjustment. And so I want to save you a lot of time and a lot of grief. You know, we're oftentimes looking for that big, huge new game plan, that big master move that we've got to do to be able to change things around. But here's what we fail to realize, that oftentimes all we have to do is a very teeny, minor, small adjustment. You know, I drive a full-size SUV, and the other day I was driving on the road, and there was something on the road. It was a hole, or it was, I don't know what it was, but as I was driving my truck, I could feel where I literally just do-doom. I could feel that I hit something. And from that moment, I could feel also that all of a sudden now the car was not driving the way that it was before I hit that actual pothole or whatever it was that was on the road. And here's what happened. I just to test it out, because I could feel as if something wasn't right. As soon as I got on a clear pathway, and I let go of the steering wheel, and I could feel that my truck was pulling over to the right. It was pulling in a direction towards the right. Now keep in mind that this is a very large, heavy vehicle. My truck happens to weigh over 5,000 pounds. I mean, we're talking about 2.5 tons that's of vehicle weight that's being pulled over to the right. And so here's one of the things that I could tell you. You know, when I had the opportunity to go in and actually to get an alignment, one of the things that they do now, these alignments, they use these really sophisticated computer systems, and they connect it to the vehicle. And as the guy was just explaining things to me, he said, here's what you got to understand. He says, you know, there used to be a point where we used to give alignments, and we would attempt to eyeball things and move the little dials and try to get the car back in alignment. But he said, now with these sophisticated computers, that all we do is we set the parameters, and the computer will make the adjustment. And he said sometimes the adjustment is literally, he said, it's a fraction of a degree. Literally a fraction of the degree. Literally that it's undetectable by the naked eye, undetectable by the naked human eye. And he says just that little teeny fraction of a degree could be the difference between your car pulling to the right or the left. It's the difference between your tires wearing out unevenly. It's the difference between you getting good fuel economy and you not. And so here's what I say to you. That maybe right now you're trying to head into a direction for your goals and your dreams. You're trying to head into a certain direction when it comes to your finances, when it comes to your relationship, when it comes to your health. But life has created a set of circumstances that seems to be pulling you away from your goals, that seems to be pulling you away from the happiness that you want, seems to be pulling you away from that ideal weight, seems to be pulling you away from what you want to happen in your finances. And so what happens is, most of us, what we're doing is we're fighting the steering wheel. We're putting in all this effort, this time, and this energy, and we're trying to force ourselves into making some things happen. And so what we do is we start exerting all this time, this effort, this energy, and then we begin to get frustrated because we want it really, really bad, and we're willing to fight for it. And we're willing to pull on the steering wheel, but what happens is you can only do that so long. After a while, it gets tiring. You see, after a while, you begin to feel drained. And so oftentimes, the only thing that you've got to do is just get in alignment by simply making that little teeny adjustment. And so the question is, when it comes to whatever area in your life that you're looking to improve, that area in life in which you've been exerting time, effort, and energy, and at times you're feeling frustrated because you're not producing the results that you want. The question is, what little adjustment, what tiny fraction of a degree of an adjustment do you need to make in order to start producing the results that you want? And so I want you to stop thinking about doing something radical and doing something drastic. And yes, there are times where you are going to have to do something radical. There are times when you are going to have to do something drastic. But believe it or not, most of the time, all you've got to do is make very small, minor adjustments. Little teeny adjustments will go ahead and allow you to be able to double your income, especially as a business owner. Little tiny adjustments will be able to restore your marriage. Little teeny adjustments will be able to allow you to finally lose that weight once and once for all. Little teeny adjustments will put you in alignment with your goals and your dreams and that thing that you know that you've been wanting to do, that you've been meaning to do, but that you just haven't acted on. You know, as a matter of fact, there's somebody that I was helping out with sort of strategizing their whole business strategy for this upcoming year. And I was looking at all the things that she was doing in her business, and believe it or not, contrary to what she was thinking based off of the results that she was producing, that in many ways she was doing the right thing. And so what we did was we came up with a strategy, we came up with a game plan, and all we did was change just a few little minor adjustments. And so one of the things that she offers different services. And one of the things that I realized, because oftentimes you can't see the picture when you're in the frame, she's so busy in the business every single day that there's a certain perspective that I can bring to her business because I'm not the one that's physically in the middle of her business. And one of the things that I realized is that she's extremely talented. One of the things that I realized is she has tremendous services that she's providing, but that she was charging far too, trust me, she was charging 1/4 of what she should have been charging for her services. And so as we looked at the amount of income that she produced in her business this past year, by just simply changing her rates for her services, which is one area, and simply changing just a few of her packages and making minor adjustments, we did the math and we calculated over the first 3 months, in the next quarter, she is going to make in the next quarter more than what she made the entire year running this part-time business. And so if you were to talk to somebody, or if she were to have a conversation with somebody in 3 months from now, and she's having a conversation, she tells them, I got to tell you, it's just craziest thing, but literally in my business in the past 3 months, if she's having a conversation, she tells somebody, in my business in the past 3 months, I've generated more income in the past 3 months than I did the entire year in my business, in this part-time business. Somebody would look and be thinking in many ways like, man, she had to do something radical. She had to have done something drastic. She must have done a complete overhaul of her business. She must have changed her entire business model. And I would tell you that that person would have completely missed the mark. Why? Because all we did was just very tiny little adjustments. We didn't change what she was doing. We didn't change the services that she was providing. The only thing that we adjusted was her prices, and we slightly adjusted 1 or 2 of her packages. And so what I'm saying to you is this, that there is a possibility that you're looking to produce a result, and unfortunately, you're not producing that result right now. And you're getting frustrated. And you're believing in your mind that there has to be something significantly wrong with what you're doing right now. And what I'm saying to you is there's a strong possibility that all you've got to do is make a very small, minute adjustment. I mean, we're talking about literally millimeters. We're talking about fraction, a degrees, just a fraction of a degree. We're just talking about literally just a few inches, if that. A little teeny adjustment in your daily routine, a little teeny adjustment in the way that you're showing up, a little teeny adjustment in the things that you're doing on a daily basis. Just a small teeny adjustment can create a breakthrough for you. And so I want you to really be thinking about right now that area that you've been struggling in, that area that maybe perhaps you're not struggling, but you're just looking to take to the next level. And so I want you to start thinking, as opposed to thinking about something radical and something drastic, I want you to consider what it is that you're doing right now. And I want you to think about what is it that you can just do a little teeny shift, a little teeny adjustment to, that would potentially just allow you to produce and create some entirely different results. You know, one of my good buddies, he called me up, it was a couple of months ago, and he was participating in a celebrity bowling tournament that was there to raise funds for this nonprofit organization. And so he invited me to come out with him, and he's a real huge family guy. And so, of course, he brought his kids out. And so we go out there and we start bowling. And you know, this guy, he's a former athlete. And of course, you know, his children are very competitive, and they are in many ways very athletic. And so we're over there at the bowling alley, and I'm seeing his daughter, who is, I mean, a complete athlete. I mean, she plays tennis, she runs track. I mean, she's strong, she's powerful. I mean, she is just an all-around athlete. I mean, just is just a complete, true reflection of the great athlete that her father was. And so I watch her, and she begins to start bowling. And you know, for the most part, the adults are competing and the kids are just playing, and we're expecting them to just play and have fun. So we're not really giving the kids too much guidance and everything, because they're just having fun. But her, she's such a competitor. She's such an athlete. I can tell, and I can see the frustration that's starting to mount up in her. So she gets her first frame at the bowling alley, and she throws the ball down, and she throws it with so much strength, so much force. I mean, she's only 13 years old, but you could just see the power. And unfortunately, she throws the gutter ball. And then now it's her second chance. She gets the ball again, and she throws it, and once again gets a gutter ball. She does not knock down not even one pin. It's her second chance now. Now she's figuring, you know what? I've got to put a little more power, a little more strength on it. So she throws the ball even harder and rolls it down there. But once again, gutter ball. Not one pin gets knocked out. And so now I could see the frustration is starting to mount. I could start seeing it in her eyes. I could see her posture. She's starting to drop her shoulders. She's stomping on the ground. She's really getting upset. And then so I walk up to her and I said, listen. I said, Morgan, look, can I help you out for a second? And she said, yeah. I said, well, you know, I'm watching you, and your form is pretty good. But here's what I'm noticing. Here's what you're doing. Right when you're about to release the bowling ball, here's what you're doing. You're just slightly turning your wrist. And so what's happening is you have this great form, and you're going up to release the bowling ball, but every time you're going up to release the bowling ball, there's just this little teeny twist that you're doing of your wrist, just this slight turn of your wrist, and that's what's causing the ball to go right into the gutter. And so if you could just concentrate just a little more, and if you could just hold your wrist straight when you're releasing the ball, and not turn your wrist slightly when you're letting go of the ball, I'm telling you, all of a sudden now you're going to start knocking down pins. And so sure enough, she listens to me. She makes the adjustment. And the very first time she rolls the ball down, boom, first time, no gutter ball. She knocks down a couple of pins. The second time she's up to bowl, she knocks down a couple of pins and she leaves the open frame open. And then the third time she gets a strike. Now, if you're observing this person, you're saying to yourself, like, man, this looks like an entirely different bowler. You're saying to yourself, man, all she was rolling before were gutter balls. She couldn't knock down one pin. And so you're saying to yourself, what changed? Did she do something radical? Did she stop in the middle of this game and go get bowling lessons? No. The only thing that changed is she made a very tiny, minor adjustment. All she did now was she stopped spinning and doing this little turn of her wrist when she released the ball. A very tiny, small adjustment. All of a sudden now produced entirely different results. And so what's happening right now for some of us, that we're attempting to knock down some pins in our lives. That there's some pins that you're aiming at right now that you're trying to knock down. You've got some financial pins that you're trying to knock down. You have some relationship pins that you're trying to knock down. That there's some goals, some pins that are set up that you're attempting to knock down. And you're putting in all this time and this effort, and for some reason you can't seem to knock the pins down. And so you're getting frustrated and you're saying to yourself, why can't I get my business to the next level? Why can't I produce the income that I want? Why is it that I can't lose this weight once and once for all? Why is it that I can't seem to get out of debt? Why is it that I can't seem to find my purpose and my passion in life? And I keep I'm just aiming at these pins, but I can't seem to knock them down. What I want to remind you is that all you've got to do is a little teeny adjustment. And so all you've got to do is take some time to try to identify what that thing is for you. And so I want to leave you with just a couple of steps, because I want you to be able to make that adjustment in your life, whatever area in your life it is. So if you're a note taker, I want you to write this down. And it's just 3 things that I really want you to do, specifically in that area in your life that you're looking to take to the next level. The first thing is, I need you to identify the area in your life where you're looking to produce a different result. Right? And so there are different areas in our lives, some areas in our lives of which we're more content, we're more happy about the results that we're producing, but yet there are some areas in our lives that unfortunately we're not quite producing the results that we want. And so there are some of us that are doing very well financially, but we're struggling in the area of our relationships. There are some of us that are doing great in the area of our relationships, but unfortunately we're struggling with our finances. Or maybe perhaps your finances and your relationships are doing well, but you're struggling with your weight, you're struggling with your health, and there's just this area in your life, or there's something that you're doing, but you just can't seem to find your purpose or your passion, but there's just something just is not quite right. I want you to identify what that area in your life is. Think about what that area is. Think about whatever it is for you. Is it your relationship? Is it your finances? Is it your health? What's that area in your life for you? Think about what that area is for you. Now, here's what I want you to do. Try not to get frustrated. Try not to be thinking about, about exerting all this additional energy and effort and doing something radical, but rather think about what is it that you're doing right now. Think about what you're doing right now. And I want you to consider what is the little adjustment that needs to be made in order for you to change the current outcome that you're producing. So in other words, what's that little teeny adjustment? I'll never forget this. I had one of my cousins that had always been struggling with her weight. And it had been a little time since I saw her. Then when I saw her again, she had lost at least 20 pounds. And I said, wow, you look fantastic. You look great. What have you been doing? Did you go on did you go on like a radical diet? What are you doing? What are you doing? Just help me out here. And I'm waiting on her to tell me, that she's, joined Slim Fast, she's reducing her meals, she's juicing, she's working out, just several times a day or whatever it might be. And when she tells me, I'm blown away. And I said, well, what are you doing? She says, I just stopped eating large meals after 7:00. I said, okay, well, that's great. What else did you start doing? She said, no, that's it. Wait a second. You mean tell me you lost 20 pounds just by changing your eating habits beyond 7:00 p.m.? And she said, yeah. She said, Andy, I used to, after 7:00 p.m., a lot of times I'd work all day long. I would go all day, realize that I didn't eat anything, be starving at 9 o'clock p.m., and at 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock p.m., I'd eat this real large meal, and then shortly afterwards help the kids with their homework and then go to sleep. So I wasn't able to burn off those calories, and unfortunately, it was causing me to just gain weight. And so what I decided to do was that I was going to finish my last heavy meal of the day before 7 o'clock. And after 7 o'clock, if I was hungry for any reason, I'll just grab a little snack. And by doing that over the past couple of months, I've been able to lose the weight. And so you mean to tell me that just that little teeny adjustment, just changing the time that you're eating your last meal, has allowed you to lose the weight? She said, yep, that's it. And so sometimes we're looking for this big, complicated solution, but oftentimes it's just a little teeny, minor adjustment. And so I know that I've had the opportunity now, being a newlywed, it's funny, even before we actually got married, that, my wife actually convinced me, and at the time we were dating, and this is crazy, this is insane, I wouldn't suggest this, but when we were dating, we actually went to a marriage conference. Now, mind you, we're dating, and we went to a marriage conference. You want to talk about some pressure, right? So we're sitting at a marriage conference, but it was great. I'm so happy I went, because let me tell you something. I got to listen to many of the couples that were there that had been married for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And some of them were sharing moments in their marriage where they were having significant struggles. And so, I was sort of leaning in to listen, to hear like, okay, well, what did you do to change the struggle? And I'll never forget, there was one particular couple that was talking about how, that their relationship, the dynamic of their marriage completely changed once they began to have kids. And basically the husband said, it seemed like the wife was so occupied with the kids and everything was so centered around the kids that the relationship between him and his wife began to die. And so in many ways, they would just sort of come in and all the conversations were around the kids, and they started losing the intimacy in their marriage. And it felt as many ways as if their marriage was only centered around the kids, and that now their marriage was beginning to suffer. And then so he says, but you know what? We came up with a solution that completely turned our relationship around. He said, we came up with a solution that literally saved our marriage. And so I'm waiting on this guy to say, okay, well, what's this magnificent solution that they came up with? And the guy says, we came up with that every Saturday we do a date night. So once a week we do a date night. And so we get a babysitter, and the kids know, they've come to the understanding that mom and dad are going on a date night. And so I'm waiting on a list of all the other things that they did. And he said, that's it. He said, that alone completely saved our marriage. That alone restored the intimacy in our life. That alone completely changed the dynamics of our marriage. One little tiny adjustment. One little teeny adjustment allowed that person to lose weight. One little teeny adjustment allowed somebody to save their marriage. That there are people that are operating their business, and you say, well, what changed? What changed in your business? They tell you, well, we just started following up on our leads. That's it. You just started following up on your leads. Yeah, we created automated. We enrolled, or we purchased an automated system to start doing some of the things that's it. That's all you change. Yes, that's all we did. And so oftentimes it's just one little teeny thing. There are couples that, I've had the opportunity to do some financial courses, one of which is called Financial Peace University by Dave Ramsey, and you'll hear some of the success stories, and you hear of people who got out of debt, people who had tons of debt, and you ask, well, how did they get out of debt? And one of the first steps, little teeny adjustment, they just cut up their credit cards. And so they stopped spending money on credit cards, and they started paying their credit card debt off. That was it. You expected something radical, and they just kept doing that over a series of 5 years, that little teeny adjustment, and all of a sudden things turned around. And so the question is for you, in that area in your life that you've identified that you need to improve in, I want you to think about what's that little teeny adjustment that you've got to do right now in your relationship. That little adjustment that you've got to do right now in your business, the little adjustment that you have to do right now when it comes to your health regimen. What's that little adjustment that you have to do that's going to put you in alignment? That little adjustment that you have to do that's going to completely change and shift things around for you. And so don't be deceived. Don't be fooled. Don't think that it's going to take something crazy, just just crazy effort, something just radical. You're going to have to just completely change your business model, or just completely get a brand new relationship, or just completely just give up on everything. No, that's not the case. Oftentimes it's just a small adjustment, a minor adjustment that's going to allow you to create your breakthrough. That's going to allow you to finally produce the income that you want. That's going to allow you to lose the weight. That's going to allow you to get out of debt. That's going to put you in alignment with your purpose, with your calling, with that thing that you've been wanting to do, that thing that you've been meaning to do. Just a tiny little adjustment. And so the question is, what's that adjustment for you? And once you figure out what that adjustment is, then it's very simple. You just got to make the adjustment. And of course, you've got to stick to it. You know, here's something that Tony Robbins once said. You know, I had an opportunity to participate in a couple of his trainings, and he always shares this story about when he was taking up golf, and he remembers going to the driving range, and he's hitting these golf balls, and the very first time he's meeting up with the instructor, I mean, he's talking about like boom. I mean, he's hitting these balls because if you know anything, Tony Robbins is a huge man, okay? I mean, he's hitting these balls with force. I mean, he's going way further out than the instructor is. And he says by the next time he gets out there to the golfing range and he's hitting the balls, he's getting frustrated because now the balls are going all the way to the right, they're going all the way to the left, and so he intends for the balls to go straight. But he's hitting these balls, but they're going all the way to the right, they're veering all the way right or veering all the way left. And so he's frustrated, and he says that the instructor literally shows him the way that when you're swinging an actual golf club, the way that the golf club hits the ball, and how it's just literally millimeter difference between the ball going straight and the ball going all the way to the right or the ball going all the way to the left. And if you're willing to just make that little teeny millimeter of an adjustment in your swing, if you make that little millimeter of adjustment in your life, then all of a sudden you'll produce different results. And so here's this quote that Tony Robbins said at that time. He says, when it seems impossible, when it seems like nothing is going to work, you're usually just a few millimeters away from making it happen. And so I want you to think about that right now, that literally you are just a few millimeters away from making something significant happen in your life. And so stop thinking that you've got to do something crazy, something radical, something drastic. And yes, there are times that is what you have to do. But more times, most often, all you have to do is make a very tiny, small adjustment. And so your job is to identify that area in your life that you want to improve, that area in life that you want to take to the next level. Then figure out what that little tiny adjustment is that you need to make. And then you need to make the adjustment and, of course, stick with it so that you can produce the results that you want. And I can assure you right now that if you're willing to commit to that process, that whatever area in your life you're looking to improve, you will start seeing different results. You will start producing different results. And not only that, but you realize that you didn't have to exert as much energy and effort as you thought you had to. And you'll have this epiphany, this aha moment where you say, oh my goodness, are you kidding me? That was all. I just needed to just move it over just a millimeter. I had to just move it over just a fraction of a degree. I had to just make that little teeny adjustment to put myself back in alignment. And so I know that this is your time. That this is your time for a breakthrough. This is your time when things are going to begin to go your way. But in order for these things to happen, that you've got to be willing to make this very small, tiny adjustment. And so the question is, what's the adjustment that you need to make? This has been Andy Henriquez reminding you to always show up for your life. Because if you don't, ladies and gentlemen, nobody else will.
Yes, yes.